Hey Songbirds, it's Jackie and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. If you are looking for hope, health, and help, look no further. You've come to the right place. So as you know, I'm on a mission to get more of you singing in 2024. And so if you missed the first video, pause this one and then go watch that one and come directly back to this one, because it's a great introductory video to kind of help you on your way to get back into singing again. Or maybe it's your first time singing and you've never been in a choral setting before. I would encourage you definitely to try to watch these in sequence because they build up on one another. So we're going to discuss from John Wesley's Directions for Singing, and we are on week 2. And this is very, very key to helping you learn any piece of music. So number 2 says, sing them exactly as they are printed here. Last week we talked about hymns and how important they are. So when he says them, sing them, he's talking about the hymns or the sheets of music that you're learning. Sing them exactly as they're printed here without altering or mending them at all. And if you have learned to sing them otherwise, unlearn it as soon as you can. And at first I wasn't sure if I had much to say on this, and I considered for a moment just skipping this one entirely, but I got to thinking this was actually something that was very much drilled into our heads. When I was in college and getting a degree in vocal performance, we were told numerous times, not just by my private instructor, but also by our choral conductors, the importance of learning a piece of music the exact right way. And we talked a little bit last week about how beautiful and amazing the brain is, but how tricky things can get if you're trying to learn a piece and all those wonderful synapses work together and all these great things fire off to make those connections to help you learn in your long-term memory where it's tucked safely in the brain. It is very, very difficult when you learn a piece to deconstruct that and to relearn that same piece. It's very, very difficult. And how I realized this was a great example this week. It happened in rehearsal time with some of my younger kiddos. I was teaching them a new piece that I had never introduced to them before, but had done previously. And the previous time that I had helped them learn that piece, it was very much kind of a cappella, very free, and a lot of liberties in the score. This one, as I was teaching them, I realized very quickly that this was a much more formal and regimented rhythm, and it had a lot more structure to it. And so I had to break some of those bad habits and make sure that I was teaching them the exact right way. I did not want to lead them astray. So it's very important that we learn it the right way. It'll save you so much time and so much sanity in the long run. I promise you that. So in a choral setting, as you're pulling out a piece of music for the first time, maybe your conductor is going to play a sound clip for you to listen to or watch a video on it, but sometimes they're just going to dig right in. So if you're new to sight reading, this can be a little overwhelming. In this type of situation is as you're diving into the piece for the first time, you're going to need a pencil. And this is a pet peeve of mine, and I know that it is the bane of several conductors' existence. It is a big pet peeve, and they want you to have your pencils sharpened, ready to go with a big fat eraser if you need to. Now, my father will say that he loves a red pen because your eyes kind of gravitate towards it. You can see it really well. He calls it his glottalizer, and more on that later probably. But I personally, don't tell him, I love a pencil because I make lots of mistakes, and so I want to erase if I need to, or I'm going to make adjustments as I go along. And the other benefit is if somebody else gets your score of music and they have a completely different voice part than you do, they're not going to be frustrated by having to erase everything that you've written on your paper so that they can start from scratch and kind of go off of a new score or erase things as they need to. Also saves them time. So that pencil is crucial. The second thing that I would encourage you to do, especially if this has been a while since you've been singing or if you've never done it before, is I would encourage you to take a little notepad. I don't have one with me, but I usually have a little piece of paper that I'm taking notes on while I have choir time. When I was in college, it was very important for me to make sure that I was writing down any parts that the conductor was saying we needed to drill on our own time. Or if I knew I was struggling in some certain sections, I didn't want to slow anybody else's time down by not knowing that part. So I would write down and take notes about which sections, which measures I needed to drill on my own at home. And a lady pulled up next to me one time while we were singing in a big choral setting in college, and I realized she was pressing play and then stopping and recording something right next to me, and I asked her what she had, and it was an old school recording device with the cassette tapes. Did you know they still make those? I didn't know that, but those still work great. She was very, very new to the world of singing, but she loved it and had such a passion for it, and truly a brilliant idea. Your phones, I don't have my phone right here with me, but I would show you there are recording tools on your phone. If it's a smartphone, you should be able to record. Or this camera right here would be a great tool to use to help record your rehearsal times. And then you can watch it at any time, and you don't even have to take notes on a little piece of paper on the side if you have to drill certain parts, because it's just all right there ready to go. It's also great as a listening file for if you want to review some parts and go over what had been discussed in the previous lesson. Now I'm gonna say a quick little thing and then get off my soapbox. I really encourage you, that pencil is super important. And I know sometimes we think, especially as we're getting a little bit better or more confident with our singing, that we don't need to make the note marking, we don't need to say anything or to write anything extra down. I'm gonna remember it. And our brains are brilliant and they can remember a lot of things, but there's a lot that happens from one rehearsal to the next, from one week to the next, and even from rehearsal time to worship time. We got to give our brains a little bit of a hand and help them to remember, because sometimes we're gonna have a stressful day and all of a sudden we're not gonna remember where we were supposed to breathe. So please, 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 your conductors will thank you tremendously. Have that pencil handy. We cannot be so arrogant as to think that we're gonna remember it all and that we're above marking those scores. Give your brain, your future self, a hand up and help yourself to remember it. The people around you will thank you too. They need you to help with learning the piece so that they can feel confident in their learning ventures too. Plus, if you don't mark it, a lot of times, especially if you've got newer people standing around you, then they're going to think, well, if they're not marking it, then I don't need to mark it. So be a good example for those around you. And it's only our responsibility to learn our parts. Everybody else has their own responsibilities too. So let's get those pencils handy and ready to go. Okay, done, promise, off my soapbox. So once you have gone over the music in rehearsal time, what can you do at home to learn a piece and to get it really stuck in the brain exactly the right way? Again, get that pencil handy because you're gonna be using it quite a bit. And if your conductor is kind and generous enough to let you bring your music score home, bring it home. That is an incredible useful tool that you can use to go over, because your notes are already in there and you can make additional markings without the worry or stress of running out of time. And another thing that I would encourage you to do is get an audio recording. If you've got your recording device with you during the rehearsal time, you can use that. Or there's great websites for choral musicians everywhere. J.W. Pepper has a great one, and you can get an actual sound file or a sound link of that exact piece of music that you're working on. Technology is amazing. So you got the trifecta right there. You've got your music in your hands, you're reading it as you're listening to it, and as you're singing it. You will save so much time. I promise you that. You'll thank me later. So when we're listening to the music, listen to it all the way through so you can get a feel for how the music is going to go and kind of see it from a bigger picture. Then you're going to start singing through it slowly. YouTube has an incredible tool on it in the settings bar where you can actually slow down to a learning speed, however fast or slow you want to take it, to learn a piece of music. It's awesome. It's so helpful and a great resource for you. The other thing, break the music up into chunks. If you have a part where, there's some challenging sections in it, don't drill the easy stuff. You've already got that. Drill the sections that are giving you a little bit more trouble, or if you're like me, who's a soprano who has a lot of descants, drill those parts. So you, again, are taking responsibility for what your part is and what you need to bring to the table, and you will have it solid. Then you can bring it back up to speed a little bit later. And then another part is later on down the line, you're gonna add those dynamics. You've probably marked them with your pencil, or your director has said exactly what they want in certain sections of music. So please make sure that you don't forget those dynamics, because that's kind of where the emotion comes in. So it goes from being a very flat learned piece to jumping off the page and communicating a message with people. So don't neglect those. That's kind of the icing on top. All right, so a few little markings that you can make in your own learning time is know where your part is. If you're looking at a hymnal or any sheet of music really, your part is going to be either a soprano or alto on the top, or a tenor and bass on the bottom. So make sure you know which part that you're singing, and make a little marking if you need to. Sometimes I'll draw an arrow if there are multiple split parts, or my descant is right there and I've got to get up to that part. I want my eye to see it immediately, and I'll draw a little arrow. Know your tempo. We talked about learning the music slow, but then I want you to work your way back up to the tempo, because that is so important. If you learn it slow and then you come in and it is at a presto tempo, you're going to be left in the dust, and it's going to be very frustrating. So bring it back up to that tempo, and almost all of your scores of music are going to have that exact tempo for you. And then adding in your breath marks and your rests. Make sure that you circle those parts where you don't want to have an accident, and make sure that you are adding in your breath marks. If some of these words that I'm saying are a little foreign or strange, I can add in some more videos on sight reading and how to learn how to read through music a little bit faster, and all the lingo and some music theory. If that's something that interests you, go ahead and comment below. And then also, for little things that are seemingly unimportant to us in the moment, but in actual presentation time when you are in front of a congregation, have your eyes up. Have your eyes up and write it in your music from time to time. Sometimes it's hard and we get out of the habit of doing that, especially if it's a more challenging piece. What I like to do, I like visuals, and I'll put a little couple eyeballs to kind of remind me, oh, my eyes need to go up. This is great for when you need to have a critical cutoff, or when you have an entrance that is really tricky. Let the conductor help you, and part of how you help the conductor help you is by looking at them. So sometimes we just need that visual reminder. I'll even draw little pictures. If I'm supposed to have a face of joy and I keep forgetting to do that, and the conductor's saying, more joy, more passion on your face, make sure that you put a little smiley face on there. Or if it's more serious, like for a tenebrae service, you want to have a more serious, you don't want to be joyful during a sad part. So make sure that you are putting those also in your markings. Very important. And then of course the dynamics. I mentioned this before. Again, if you need some help with knowing what certain dynamics are and how to read those really quickly and efficiently, make sure that you comment below and let me know, and I'm glad to help you. But add those dynamics in. Sometimes those markings can be really small. Make them bigger. You can just draw a little bit larger print, or you can say more sound or a little more quiet here, just as an added benefit to the eyes. And then lastly, if there are repeats or codas or challenging parts, circle it. Write in where you're supposed to go back to, like go back to page 2, or as you're getting back to a part where you need to skip ahead, write exactly what page number and measure number, so you are not wasting time going to that section. It saves you so much hassle, I promise you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing so you don't miss an episode. And as always, no matter what side of the bed you woke up on this morning, you can always end your day on a high note. Bye guys.